Hi folks, it's Mr. Ackerman here. Thanks for watching. This video is going to introduce you to one of the ways that you might do a basic photo critique, and it's based on the YouTube video that we watched in an assignment. The video is called Photo Critique Part 1, Stay Focused with Doug McKinlay. You'll recall this guy. We watched a short video and answered some questions about how he would do a photo critique. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one of the photos that I've taken recently, and I'm going to do a critique on it so that you can see what I'm looking for in your presentation. Remember, throughout, we're going to focus on what was done well, what was not done so well, and how things could be improved. So we're going to talk about technical aspects, for example, the sharpness of the image, the exposure, the brightness, the contrast, and post-processing, which means the work that you did in Photoshop. Then we're going to get into the composition. This is the more artistic aspect of the photo, like how you framed it, how you set it up, whether there's a point of interest, and if so, where is it located, does the eye get drawn to it, and finally, whether you've used the elements and principles effectively to accomplish this goal. And finally, we're going to look at the emotional appeal, which is where you kind of get to give your own opinion on whether the photo connected with you. So it's not so much technical or artistic, it's more of a feeling that you have. So let's get started. The photo that I'd like to show you is one that I shot in school, just on the back field. It was early one morning, it was kind of foggy, and the rugby team was finishing up their practice. I was in a huge rush, and I really had very little time to set up the photo the way I would normally like to. I just kind of captured a moment in time. The teammates were all kind of congratulating each other after a good morning practice. They were walking off the field. I liked the way that they were highlighted against the fog in the background. I ran to a position where I felt I could get a photo before they dispersed off the field and everything disappeared. So let's go to the method that McKinlay uses and see if we can apply it. The first thing is to look at the technical aspects. Let's look at the sharpness. Are the right parts of this sharp? Well, the point of interest is clearly the team here, and if you look at it, you can see there's quite a bit of sharpness. If I zoom in using Control Plus and just scrolling a bit, you can see for sure there's no blurriness here at all. So in terms of focus, I did a good job there. Let's look at the exposure here. Is it bright enough? And of course, this is going to depend on the screen that you're viewing on, but overall I think the brightness is good. I've got a range of tones from blown out white where the sun is trying to get through the fog to pretty bright highlights in that vicinity, down into middle grays and even dark grays. So I think the brightness is fine. In terms of the contrast, it's a fairly high contrast image. It goes, like I said, from blown out highlights to pure white, to light grays, to middle grays, to darker grays. There's very little in the way of black. There's a few patches in the grass here, but overall I think there's pretty good contrast. And the post-processing, what I did in Photoshop, well, one thing you can see for sure is that I converted to black and white, but without seeing the original, it's hard to see whether I've gone over the top or not, or I've completely altered the image. I'm going to show you the original image in a moment, but for now, I think it's safe to say that I haven't altered the image so that it doesn't look realistic. There's nothing that is unusual or strange about it, like super saturated colors that you might get in a sunset photo that's been oversaturated. So from that point of view, nothing looks over the top in Photoshop. So now let's take a look at the composition, the framing. How were the elements placed within the frame? Was anything left out that should have been included? And was something included that should have been left out? So this is where I'm going to take you to the original photo and explain the story behind this. So here's the original that I have open. You can see it's quite different from the edited image. Here's the story behind it. I was walking outside one morning and this photo just kind of appeared before me. I did not have time to move anywhere really up onto the field, which is where I would have liked to have been, because I knew these guys were going to walk off the field and disperse and the whole image would disappear. So I shot from where I stood. Like I said, I didn't have much choice, and there were a number of things that distracted me, like these three people here who had a lot of visual weight because they were closer to the camera than the team. There's this guy under the goal post, and there's even someone here who I think is standing on one leg as he adjusts his shoe. So if you go to the edited image, you'll see that I've actually removed the person underneath the goalpost. The other two people who used to be over here, I've removed them as well, and I've cropped out the guy who was off to the left side here. I've also cropped the image so you don't see the parking lot over here, and I've removed a lot of the negative space around the edge. So if I get back to the question here, framing, what did you include, what didn't you include, how did that work out? I think in the beginning the original image was not too successful. Again, it's because I didn't have a lot of time to set it up, but once I did the editing, I think I was able to rescue the image and make it more to my liking. Next up, point of interest. Is there in fact a point of interest, and is the eye drawn to it? Is it in the right place in the composition? So let's go back here. See, there is a point of interest. It's the teammates. I think by not putting them directly in the center and by having the goalpost to kind of balance where they are, it gives a sort of left-right balance, even if it doesn't have symmetry. There's a fair amount of negative space on top, but having the sun there provides some visual weight. So you've got interest throughout. And if I go back to what's the question here, is there a point of interest and is the eye drawn to it? I think the answer is yes. So I would confidently say that it's in the, quote, correct position, knowing that there's never a correct position, a unique correct position. There could be many, but I think it works here. Let's finish up the composition analysis with the use of elements and principles. How effectively were they used? Which ones were used? Do they add visual interest? And here's where I'm going to kind of be a little tough on myself. I feel like the photo lacks a bit of depth. There's really no leading lines to lead you into it. In the original image, there were some leading lines in the parking lot, but I cropped those out because they just occupied so much space that they really took away from the point of interest, and I felt that they had to go. I would have liked to have seen some more contrast and better use of lighting on the grass here. It's pretty flat. There's some texture, but not much, and I'm not too thrilled with the foreground, to be quite candid with you. The background, on the other hand, I kind of enjoy. I like the fog and the lack of contrast in there compared to the players against the background. I think adds a kind of mystery and a morning feel to it. So in that respect, I like the way I used lighting. There are other elements we can talk about. The lines, I think, are kind of boring. There's horizontal lines here with the horizon, and there's vertical lines, and of course there's the broken line of the trees. But again, there's no real leading lines to bring you into the frame. The only lines that I think are really of any interest is if you look at the legs of the players as they're walking, they give a sense of movement to the photo. However, it is kind of leading you out of the frame. So again, not my best work. If I could have shot this again, I probably would have picked a different angle. I probably would have come closer and tried to use some sort of foreground element to lead you in. Maybe it could be a piece of equipment like you see over here, or maybe there would be a pathway that could have been used. Going to the final part, the emotional appeal. What do you feel when you look at the image? Does it evoke any feelings within you? I get a kind of a nice morning feel when I look at this image, the kind of thing that if you go for a jog early in the morning or you get some exercise, you feel really good about yourself. I can identify with that because I like to do that sort of thing, and I know that these players had their morning practice. They probably went to class totally energized and feeling good about their accomplishments, so I can have that connection there. Also, there is a sort of landscape appeal to me with the fog and the morning sunrise trying to burn through that fog, and I'm a landscape guy, so it's got that connection as well. Does the photo tell a story? I think it does. I think it tells a story about a bunch of teammates who respect one another, who work well together, who want to win, who want to work hard in order to accomplish their goals, and I can relate to that. So from that respect, I think it does tell a story, and it makes me wonder how they're going to do in the season. Are they going to be successful? Are they not going to be successful? How hard are they going to work? So to wrap up, if we go back to what we always want to remember in a critique, what was done well, what was not done so well, and how could it be improved, I think I can honestly say that there were some things done well, but there were other things that weren't. Some of the things that were done well was quickly reacting and doing my best to capture a moment in time that was fleeting and was going to disappear. Some of the things that weren't done so well was the use of leading lines to draw me into the photo and maintain interest. And if I could shoot it again, that would be a really tough call. It's really hard to coordinate a foggy morning sunrise and people having a workout here and have it all be kind of a candid photo like this is. But as many landscape photographers will tell you, what you have to do is envision a photo that you hope to get and ask yourself, where is that photo likely to happen and when? And then you just have to keep trying to be there. There's a saying in photography, which you'll understand once we learn about aperture and SLR cameras. It's called f8 and be there. f8 refers to an aperture that you would use on your camera. And so f8 and be there means basically get to where you need to be and get ready for the shoot. And if it happens, great. And if not, then you'll try again next time. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed and learned a few tips, and I'm looking forward to seeing your critiques coming up in class soon.